This is the pilot episode of Radio Free Cybertron's Diet and Weight Loss Podcast. I am Brian Kilby, and with me right over here I have JD Church. Hey JD, how's it going?
Excellent, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. So, what's the point of this podcast?
It's twofold. Essentially, the main part or the main idea is, as you and I have talked about, and it gets mentioned on the show, we're fat.
Yeah.
And, some more than others, but whatever. So the idea is that we want to use this show as a vehicle for our personal weight loss. So we're going to be talking about our struggles, our personal weight loss progress week by week.
We live in public.
Yes.
And I've lived in public for quite, as far as weight loss goes, I've lived in public for 5 years now. So my greatest successes in weight loss happened basically going on local radio and tracking my weight loss. I personally lost 170 pounds that I could actually measure, probably close to 230 that I couldn't. So, and that was done all over the course of a year. So, that was very unhealthy. Not a healthy way to lose weight. So, half the point of this is to educate others on how to lose weight in a healthy manner, and how to keep it off. I've done the how to lose weight. I've yo-yoed like mad, but I think I finally understand what I have to do after, try 10 at it. But, there's a lot of junk out there that, we kind of want to debunk. Just a lot of, news items that what we'll be doing is we'll be tracking our weight loss, and we'll be sharing, our journeys. And we'll be talking about news items. We'll have discussion topics, and we'll be taking questions. We don't really take that many questions on RFC and our other podcasts, but I think this is, I personally, my vision, JD, is this to be more of a dialogue with the listeners than any of the other shows that we do.
Well, absolutely. I think the idea here is to be semi-educational, and
Yeah.
some of it is, obviously we're going to be learning as well.
Yeah.
We don't contend to know everything, and we're certainly capable of being wrong a lot. But the idea here is that there's going to be a lot of feedback, dialogue. We're going to be more than happy to respond to listener questions, listener comments. So, that's something that we want to be part of the process. Yeah, so, the one part is going to be, our weight loss, and then I think the other part is to take that science approach. We want to talk about the good science that's out there, and again, kind of not debunking, but, again, talking about the good science as far as weight loss. So, I guess we'd probably want to start with our starting point. So, talking about where we're at and sort of our plan. So where are you at, Kilby? What's your...
Well, I really wanted to do a little bit of preface work here. Like I said before, I lost over 200 pounds. I started out at well over 400 pounds back in July of 2005. I was heavy. I was always heavy. I cannot remember a time in my life up until 2005, 2006 when I wasn't fat. So I took a pretty extreme weight loss approach in summer of 2005. I actually had a sponsor through the local radio station. There was and I'm not going to name any names, but there was a regional weight loss company that's provided dietary supplements and encouragement. Most of it was really sound weight loss advice, but the supplements that they offered were junk. But I was getting them for free, so I hawked them on the radio. It was great. It was great advertising for the radio station. So I lost from about 430 pounds to 240 pounds, which 240 pounds sounds really fat. I think we're going to talk later on about how BMI is bunk. I was a really fit 250 pound person. I was running 5 miles a day, 6 miles a day. I could do 20 or 30 chin-ups. I was doing 500 sit-ups a day. I had fantastic blood pressure. My heart was in excellent condition or excellent shape. I was fit as an ox.
Well, how tall are you, Kilby?
5'10", 5'11".
Okay, so
Yeah, no. My friend Ricky is a beast of a man. He's 6'4", and he's like 230, 240, and that's like just a really intimidating weight. But with my build, I have 52-inch shoulders, which now considering I'm fat, it's kind of hard to tell that I'm actually a really broad guy. It just so happens that fat people say, well, I'm big built. No, I really am. So BMI is kind of bunk, but I gained weight back. I was trying to zigzag into like not quite a bodybuilder, but like being very, very muscular. I was pretty muscular, but I really wanted to be 270 pounds of muscle. Never quite got there. I started packing on weight, and I started losing, and I was trying to narrow down to a specific size. I ended up hurting my back, and, well, if you eat like a weightlifter and you work out like a weightlifter, you become a weightlifter. But if you eat like a weightlifter and you don't work out, you become fat. So that's exactly what happened with me. So I yo-yoed for a couple of years, and this morning I weighed in at 340 pounds, which is the fattest that I've been since 2005. And I'm really working to lose weight. My goal was to get down to, again, about 250 pounds, which again sounds like a lot of weight, but in my case, it's really not that bad.
And so what's your plan? I mean, what are you wanting to do at this point?
I'm trying to cut down on calories. Right now I'm eating 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day, which is, according to research that I've done, anything under 2,600 calories is technically weight loss for me. But I would like to narrow down to between 1,500 and 2,000 and try to eat around 200 to 300 grams of protein a day and get my carbohydrate intake down to where I'm taking in less than, say, 30 grams of sugar. And, just a moderate amount of exercise. I'm not going to be killing myself like I used to. Maybe eventually once I am able to get back there, but I'm not. When I started working out, the first thing I did is I did a 3-mile walk uphill with like 50 pounds of weights. I was carrying 50 pounds of arm and leg weights. I don't do moderation. Yeah, I don't do moderation well. That's something I've tried to learn. As you know, in every aspect of my life, I live in extremes. Weight loss, weight gain, podcasting. I'm an extreme kind of guy, so I'm trying to learn moderation. And I think working through this and talking to the people, I really think that we together can do that. How about you, JD?
Well, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit and just say that, I mean, like you, I mean, I've struggled with weight my whole life. Probably, I mean, my high point would have been probably about the time, I don't guess a lot of people know this, I actually had weight loss surgery in 1999, right there between 1999 and 2000. And I had a gastric stapling, I can't even remember what to call it, Y, something or other, but anyway. At that point, I was 560 pounds.
Wow.
So that was the heaviest that I've ever been. I had the surgery that had some complications, so I ended up losing weight a lot faster than you normally would. I think my low point from that was somewhere probably around 380 to 400. I think was probably. It's hard because at that size, it's hard to get a scale to get weighed.
Is that about the point when I met you back in 02, 01?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that would have been the year. That would have been about the year after I had my surgery. That was probably about my low point. Or about
how tall are you?
6 foot.
Okay.
6 foot. So there's pictures I think of me from that BotCon that are around, and that's probably about the thinnest that I've been. Now, of course, since that time, I've gone through a bunch of stuff, relapsed, not taking very good care of myself, didn't do a lot of exercising. So, weighing in this morning, I came in at 514.
How do you just? I mean, quick question. How do you at that weight? How do you weigh yourself?
I actually had to buy a special scale. So there's a store called King Size. They do a lot of online
Cool.
and sell a lot of special products. So I have a scale that goes up to 550 pounds.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Uh, so it's right in the range.
I,
But yeah,
I felt bad a couple of weeks ago when I weighed and my weight was error 2. So, yeah. So
yeah.
I say right now I'm the fattest I've been since '05, but I've lost a couple pounds to get to where the scale will actually weigh me.
Yeah, and that can be a problem. I
Yeah.
mean, with especially with weight loss tracking. I mean, as you know, with weight loss, it's important to track your progress. And if you don't have a way to regularly weigh yourself, that can be really difficult. So if you are obese and you are looking, to that, you may check out sites like King Size and other things like that. Living XL, they do have products like that as far as scaling. So as far as my plan of attack, I think medically I'm obligated, at least to myself, to see a physician.
Yeah,
I have
I did not see a physician, and that's something I regret.
Yeah, and I mean, considering that I've had the weight loss surgery, when you do that, one of the things that you can struggle with is vitamins, because they take out a large portion of your stomach that does the vitamin absorption. So, normally I wouldn't say people need to take a lot of supplements, but some I actually do need to take. And then I have some other medical issues, blood clotting, things like that.
Yeah.
And again, talking about sound science, you definitely always want to see a physician before you start any kind of weight loss program. And we're not physicians, so
No, and we will not be giving medical advice on this show. We will be giving encouragement, as lame as that
right.
sounds, and I think we'll be using some sound logic in a lot of the things that we cover in the show. We have some interesting news items to cover later on.
Yeah, but again, we'll preface everything with, I mean, again, we're not medical professionals. We're just two guys that are kind of going through this. We're going to be sharing with you the information that we get, and maybe, I don't know, maybe sometimes we may have someone on the show to kind of
Yeah.
to talk a little bit.
My vision of the show was I'm someone who's done it. I've lost weight. I became really fit, and if I could have stayed where I was in 2007, I would be happy as can be. But one thing that I worry about is I'm getting older. I'm not old, but I'm not in my 20s anymore, and I worry that I'm not going to be able to lose weight like I was able to, and or get into the ridiculously fit shape that I was in before. So this is new territory for me. And I really hope that I'm able to achieve 90% of what I did before. I'll consider that a goal. I'll consider that a success. But my stretch goal is really I'd like to get down to 240, 250. But if I can get down to 220, I would probably look anorexic at 220. But that's always been like a long-term goal. If I can get down to that weight, that'll be really that'll be when I consider myself really successful.
hmm Yeah, I think 280 has sort of always been my standing goal, just because I'm coming from a point of being so obese that even being at 280, I think once I could get to that range, then I would worry about getting lower. I think at this point, just getting back to 400 would probably be amazing. So.
Psychologically, people treat you differently when you lose a lot of weight. You look dramatically different. Like my friend Chris Triplett said that I looked really odd when I mean, this. I'm fat now, but I was much fatter. But the way I look right now is kind of what my mental image of myself is. And that mental image actually changed from when I was 430, 440 down to when I was 240. And I guess right now I'm kind of a composite of the two. And but I really want to get back to where I was. I want my mental image to get to a certain point and to stay there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, because I, when you get to that point when you're so obese, I mean, it's really, there's a lot of just day to day difficulties. And yeah, and I'm kind of with that because when I was, 400 pounds versus being 500 pounds, I mean, that's just a big difference as far as not mobility, but just getting around, going through day to day activities. So yeah, I mean, not so much image wise for me, but more of the just functioning.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever encountered this, but when I realized what I weighed, I was shocked. I've always been big, but I've always been kind of bulky and muscular too, and I got around really well. I got around, I still do as well as anyone who's in perfect shape. I don't have a problem with stairs. I have no difficulties walking. I have no difficulties running. So when I actually finally stepped on the scale and it said like 400 pounds, I was in shock because I really thought I was like closer to 290. When did you realize that you were really as fat as you were?
Um, Gosh. Well, and it's kind of like you. I mean, it's the dual points. I mean, when originally, like when I decided to have the weight loss surgery, I think the biggest wake up call is that from where there were a couple of points. One was just my pant size. When I reached the point that I was as big around as I am tall, and I realized that I was a sphere, that was sort of incredible. I mean, I literally was wearing 72 size pants.
Right now I'm wearing 48s. I was down. I was down around 36. So that's kind of a big jump. But yeah, 72.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You're as tall as you were big around.
Yeah, I mean, with a 72, that's, you're having to, I mean, I had to basically mail order, special
Oh,
order all of my pants.
I did it. When I was wearing 52s and 54s, literally every single pair of pants I owned came from the internet.
Yeah, I mean, and well, even at that size, like you can go to like a big and tall store, like
Yeah.
Casual Mail or something like that. But I was way beyond that. Even now, I'm at a 66. But the 72 waist was big. Before I had the surgery, I had to be weighed, and the best place that I found I could be weighed was at a grain elevator. They have like the large scales, like the weight scales that you step on, like they used to weigh trucks, and that was like the best thing I could find to be weighed. And when I did that, I was like, yeah, this is not sustainable.
No.
So yeah, I mean that. It's hard to think back and remember. I mean, there were points at which I should have like known. I should have stopped myself. When you're eating cereal out of a mixing bowl, and when you're getting a Biggie Frosty at Denny's, with your lunch, these are probably things that are not a good idea.
I eat salad out of a mixing bowl. I'll admit it.
Salad is one thing when it's
I don't eat dressing, so it's
Fruit
really not that
Loops.
bad. It's like literally a big bowl of lettuce. So
Yeah, when you're buying like the family bag of Fruit Loops and going through that by yourself in a week and eating it out of a out of a mixing bowl, that's probably not.
do you have any, do you have an idea of what your caloric intake is?
Um, right now I'm kind of working on that. I mean, that's always been my crutch. I got a new phone and I got an app, and so I'm going to be trying to track. Um,
I have a notepad. I don't use my
that's
phone. I need to.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start using my phone just because it's more convenient. I always have it with me, and with it I can just put in the food that I'm eating, and it will automatically put in all the dietary information, all the sodium content. If I had to guess, I would say that my daily calorie intake is probably around 4,000 to 4,500. Just because there's a lot of mindless eating that I'll
Yeah.
do in a day, a lot of empty calories, things like that. A concern for me right now is actually my sodium intake. I'm starting to think that my sodium intake is a lot larger than I thought it was.
Sodium is one of those things that really sneaks up on you because you don't realize how much sodium is in the stuff that you're eating. During show prep this morning, I was talking to JD, and like I said, I tracked my weight loss on the radio, and there were weeks that I lost 20 pounds. It's because I cut my sodium intake, and I was in all the weight was going down the urinal. Literally, it was water weight. So sodium really you can have like a moderate amount of calories, caloric intake a week, but if your sodium intake is above a certain level, you're gonna gain weight. You're gonna gain water weight. So yeah, if you can cut that back, that should help you out a lot. You honestly might find yourself losing 40 pounds or more in just weight, just empty weight if you cut that back.
Yeah, I know that I'm having like some swelling in my extremities, like my legs and stuff, and that's probably, due to a lot of sodium. Um, some of it's blood clotting as well, and I know that because of my slow veins and things like that. I have something called factor V Leiden. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with this, but it's an increased blood clotting factor. It's genetic, and thanks, Dad. But it does cause my blood to clot and be a little bit thicker, which is the whole another reason to try to lose weight and to try and exercise. I'm not going to be too crazy, I don't think, with the exercise right off the bat. I need to at least walk, which would be good. But again, until I see a physician, I don't know that I want to go too nuts.
So once
I want to keel over.
Yeah, once we actually get into like doing the show, and if we don't really have a name for the show, so if you want to send it to me or JD, it's Brian at tfradio.net, BRIAN at tfradio.net.
Mine's short. It's JD.
Just so. JD at tfradio.net. we don't have a name for the show, so this is kind of a pilot. This is a proto show, but we're gonna go through some news items. We'll be taking like a break every 15 minutes or so because we don't have that YouTube partner account yet because we don't use YouTube enough, but we will. So we were going to take a break, but we've kind of overshot that by about 7 or 8 minutes, so we'll go straight into the news items. The one that really got me, did you read the one about how loneliness can lead to weight gain?
Yeah, I looked at that.
So what did you think about that story?
It's one of those where it's like I'm kind of of two minds. In one sense, it's kind of like duh. On the other hand, I don't know that it's extremely telling. On the other side, I don't know that I agree with all of the points. At least the conclusions.
Since we're talking about this show, it comes from sort of a scientific / skeptical perspective. I found this article actually to be lacking. There was no research. It was all there really wasn't even any evidence that there's no evidence whatsoever. It was just basically someone's thought.
Exactly. It was very bloggy, just conjecture, but yeah.
Yeah, it was all conjecture. But I originally looked at it. I'm like, well, I can see that because when I have nothing else to do, I'll eat. If I'm sitting around bored, I'll eat. So, but no, the article itself, it really didn't lead to any conclusions that were any. There was no sound logic in this story. And we're linking to it in the show notes. It sounds great. It sounds like, oh well, duh, obviously, but I don't really buy it because I know people who are bored, who sit around lonely, that when they're lonely they work out. There's some bias. I'm saying, sorry.
I think some of the logic is flawed. In the sense of, and some of these are redundant too. It's like we stop caring or whatever. The point is that, and the thing to keep in mind is that we're dumb monkeys.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down to it, eating is survival. There's nothing to tell us from a evolutionary standpoint, stop eating, right? Because we are genetically, our bodies, we're always going to be trying to plan for future a future point at which we won't have any food available.
Yes.
And that's something to really keep in mind, I think, as far as weight loss, is that it's that will factor part. You have to understand it's like, no, I'm okay. There is going to be food. I don't need to eat more. My body is telling me I need more sugars and fats because those are rare in nature, but they're not rare in my cabinet.
Yes.
So, and I think, part of that loneliness is just because, I mean, I guess if it's saying that you're living on your own, that can do it, and depression. But some people don't eat when they're depressed. Some people, like you said, they just watch TV, or they don't do anything. And some of it's not even about the overeating. It's just about the underactivity. And I think if anything, that's a takeaway, is that weight loss in general is a correlation between your caloric intake and your activity. If you have a low caloric intake and moderate activity, you can still lose weight. If you have a higher caloric intake and a higher activity, you can still lose weight or stay at an optimum weight. So there's nothing.
At my highest weight loss point, I was taking in as many calories or more than I do right now. But I was more active.
But you were more active.
Way
I mean, you're right. I mean, if you're marching uphill 3 miles and carrying 4 dead bodies on your back, I mean, you're gonna, you know, you're gonna lose weight. I mean, it's just like professional athletes or anything. I mean, they have insane caloric intakes, but they also do a lot of activities to compensate for that. They need those calories. They burn those.
Yes.
Whereas I think most of us, and again, our audience, we're going to be kind of catering to a geek crowd. Most of us are sort of inactive. We spend a lot of time probably in front of a computer or at a desk, and in our evenings we're in front of a computer playing World of Warcraft or whatever.
Not me.
Or not you, or just whatever it is that you do. Editing podcasts and things of that nature. But regardless of the fact, we're not terribly active. And so that we have to keep in mind, we don't need that large amount of caloric intake to keep us going. We're okay with a smaller amount. And that's just mind over matter.
Yeah, it is. So, what are some of the other stories that we had pulled?
Let's see.
There was one that was vexing you particularly.
There was just one that I thought was kind of funny, which was, I mean, everybody has a weight loss book these days, and a weight loss podcast apparently, but it was just an odd article, I think, from an editorial standpoint, which was local chiropractor pens a weight loss book. Which if I had to guess, I would say that there's probably not anything more interesting than what we're talking about. But we're doing this for free and for us.
Yes.
So bear that in mind. But the other thing that was just sort of odd was just, I don't know, this sort of kitchen sink approach. The guy's a chiropractor doing weight loss, and he was talking about when he ran for Congress in 2006 and something else that happened, and then he lost a bunch of weight and wrote a book about it. So it's just sort of odd. But, and that's the thing about anything. I mean, it's the thing about this podcast. It's the thing about writing a book about weight loss. Lots of people can lose weight, and we'll segue into the other stories. It's the maintenance, it's the lifestyle changes, and it's the keeping it off that is consistently across the board the problem. Anybody can take a small amount of time and, just like you did, run, or I did, have weight loss surgery. But it's maintaining that and keeping it off that's the problem. And there's a couple of stories in here that speak to that. The
problem is it's not losing weight, it's not dieting, it's making life choices and actually committing yourself to new lifestyle changes. Anyone can diet. Dieting is there's no point in it because it's a temporary solution that has no permanent results. You have to learn to make lifestyle changes, and that's really hard to do. And the two stories, they're basically the gist is the same, but a recent study finds that only 1 in 6 people who go through this whole weight loss process is actually able to keep the weight off for any significant amount of time.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to dieting. Dieting does not work. Um, any kind of, I don't care what diet you're talking about, because and again, when we say diet, I mean talking about a particular food or intake plan designed to help you lose weight. That isn't going to work. What is going to work is lowering your caloric intake, raising your activity, and then that's really where it's at. But people don't want to hear that. I mean, again, we want easy solutions, duh. And again, that's just evolutionary, right? I mean, we want the simple, fast route. The problem is as this study shows, that doesn't work. It has to be consistent. It has to be something that you keep up with. It has to be something that you maintain. And that's where I go back to remembering that we're still dumb monkeys. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're just dumb monkeys that can talk and use a lot of tools and make things work. If we can remember that we, in a sense, from an analytical sense, are smarter than our stupid brains, I think, that can help bridge that gap. But yeah, dieting, South Beach diet, any diet you want to talk about, California diet, Florida diet, whatever. I mean, prune juice diet, liquid diet, Hollywood diet, whatever. Those are not going to cause the kind of lifestyle changes that you need to lose weight and then maintain a healthy weight and a healthy diet, personal diet over time.
So, we kind of sort of have a discussion topic for this week's show. We played around with the idea of talking about how BMI is bunk. Do you know the origins of BMI, JD?
Vaguely, but you probably know it better than I do.
No, go ahead. Just tell me what you know.
Which is nothing. I mean, I know basically the idea is to try to come up with an optimum weight to mass, or height to mass ratio. As far as how that came up with, I'm not real certain.
Actually, the body mass index was developed. It was in the 19th century, and I'm having to look at Wikipedia to actually get. It was between 1830 and 1850 by the Belgian polymath Adolphe Quetelet. I guess I'm mispronouncing that, but it's by no means any type of recent or really scientific approach to understanding how someone's body actually functions. It's not like there's really no modern spin on BMI. It's basically, it measures how much you weigh to how tall you are. It's just a ratio. It's just a big like weight quotient. And it's kind of bunk. If you compare basically how people have developed over the last 200 years, nutrition is much more quality nutrition is much more accessible to basically everybody than we had 200 years ago. Like a friend of mine, he grew up on a dairy farm. He's a giant. And he's big, he's broad, and he's muscular. Right now he's a little big around the center, but when I first met him, he was just, incredibly broad, and he would have been considered, obese, due to his BMI. At the point, at my fittest, I would have been considered, well, no, I wouldn't have, I was borderline obese compared, by my BMI. But any other, scientific examination would have proved otherwise. It's just a really antiquated way of looking at, someone's weight and where they should be. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I think some of the problems with BMI are typically going to be near some of the extremes, which I think it has the potential to be. I mean, again, it may be one of those things where for the midline, it's not so bad. But then again, what's the point? But when you get towards the edges, is where it gets more difficult. And I know a lot of people have struggled with this in the military. I think
Yes.
there's a lot of usage of this in the military. And if you have someone who is extremely muscular, but the BMI doesn't compensate for that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, in the military, I guess it really depends on the service, but I know that friends have told me that friends from the army have told me that people who go into the army who are really muscular lose it quickly because it's quote unquote run off of them. They
Hmm.
run it off because the army isn't looking for hugely muscular people. It's looking for people who are trim and can march for 20 miles. That may be different in other branches, but people who
I
are
think some
people
of
who are,
that's true for the Navy
yeah.
and other branches as well. But again, so that you run into this dual problem where if you have someone that's extremely tall and wide of frame or a little bit larger, their BMI may not match what would actually be optimum for them. If they are slightly muscular, it may not match for them. And it's for me. I mean, it's probably going to say that I'm enormous, which is true. So,
Same here right now.
you know, yeah.
Basically, BMI, you arrive at it. It's your body mass index is your weight times an arbitrary number, because we love arbitrary numbers, divided by your height. And the arbitrary number, at least it does vary depending if it's your height, then, inches or feet, or for our friends in every other part of the world, by meters or centimeters. So, but I don't really, I don't know why we still look at BMI at this day and age. It's not going back to what the premise of the show. BMI isn't a healthy way of looking at weight loss. There are people like me who will never, ever, ever have their scientifically preferred BMI. To pursue it would be unhealthy, and it really frustrates me that we as a culture still use this measure, of measuring body mass and obesity.
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. I mean, one, again, we always want to simply quantify, and I mean, it's not like weight is necessarily. I mean, weight is a little bit better, but it's not. I mean, at least weight is a raw number.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, a BMI is like you said, it's semi-arbitrary because there is a little bit of a calculation that's done in that, and it is based on your height. Weight can be just as arbitrary, but I think for any individual, you can decide at least for yourself or between you and for your physician what an optimum weight is. Whereas trying to judge by BMI is not as easy. I mean, for example, if someone that I can't see or don't have any context for says that they weigh 200 pounds, I may think that person is obese, or I may think if I may think that person is obese. Well, if they are 6'5",
Yeah.
that's probably a reasonable weight. If they're 5'1",
Yes.
that's going to be extremely obese. But the BMI tries to compensate for that, but I don't think it quite
Well,
makes up for the difference.
well, I mean, BMI, it's literally a way of looking at someone saying, well, you're tall and you have a moderate amount of weight, so your BMI is, okay. You're short, but you weigh the same as this other person, so your BMI is high, so you're fat.
Hmm.
There are alternatives to BMI, like measuring your body fat mass.
Hmm.
My scale does a great job of measuring body fat. I think the U.S. Army, their standards is you have to have no more than 20% body fat to actually qualify. And
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm way more than that. But at one point I was under that. But my BMI was way higher. So yeah, BMI is just sort of it's a really antiquated way of looking at things. And if your BMI is high, but you don't really, if you are at either end of the bell curve, you may want to reconsider how you look at yourself or look at others just by based within the whole BMI range.
Yeah. Well, and at least like you say, I mean, it may not be bad in that mid range, at least for starter. But again, this is something you're going to want to consult with your physician.
Yes.
You're going to want to look at your own personal physique. I mean, because like we say again, I mean, for Brian and I mean, right now we're both obviously obese, and the BMI is going to say that. So I mean, it's not like it's broken for that per se. But I think for both of us too, we may be interested in building some muscle. And so once you get into that range where you're anywhere near the points at which it's weak, that's definitely where you're going to want to look at it and go back and really decide, is it saying that you're actually overweight, or is it just a failing of the system itself? But I don't think for us it's going to make much of a difference. I mean, again, I think we're talking about ranking or looking at our progress mainly from a weight standpoint, just because that's one, easy to measure, and two, it's not as arbitrary as say BMI.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that probably does it for this week. How about JD? Why don't we actually have sort of a pull up? What we'll do is there are lots of websites out there where you can track your weight and track your progress. I think we should probably start including like links to like our own personal progress. We'll figure out what our preferred service is, and for next week's show or the next show, we'll actually start tracking our progress. Are you up for that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then our listeners and our viewers can also go in and compare their progress to ours using that same service, and we'll figure out what the best one is, or what the best one for our purpose is, and we'll have that up. Hopefully we'll have a name for the show as well. Right now it's just the Unnamed Diet and Weight Loss Podcast from Radio Free Cybertron. So, you have anything else? Any parting words of wisdom?
No. Other than like I said, before you start any weight loss, go see your physician.
Consult your physician, really. Consult.
Yep.
And going back to when I did consult my physician and about my weight, he thought my weight was great when I was at that point. Yeah, he even said, it doesn't matter what my doctor said. It doesn't matter what you weigh. It's how you feel, and what how your heart's health is, your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So of course my doctor's also 6'7" and like 900 pounds. So he doesn't wear gloves, and it's really uncomfortable. But
maybe that's another.
Yeah. So that's we will be back hopefully next Sunday. I think we'll be recording this after our Fanboy Versus podcast. So thank you for watching and or listening, and we will be back next week.